Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, another big name joins the race for San Diego mayor. And we'll talk with a councilwoman about what neighborhoods can expect now that Bob Filner is gone.
I'm Peggy Pico. The Department of Justice says they won't sue states for legalized recreational marijuana use. What the new policy change means here in San Diego. And as the Rim Fire continues to burn, the local American Red Cross kicks off a 1 million-person disaster outreach plan called Prepare San Diego. How it works for businesses and families.
We'll also take a look tonight at a San Diego center's work to help cancer patients become parents. And a San Diego company unveils the next must-have item for gadget fans. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Another candidate stepping into the ring for a run at the San Diego mayor's office. Councilman Kevin Faulconer officially announced his candidacy today and made his first campaign promises.
We will repair our broken roads, our sidewalks, our sewer lines, our infrastructure. We will bring back certainty for businesses ready to create jobs and economic growth. And we will eliminate bureaucratic waste so tax dollars are invested in public safety, parks, libraries, and improving our neighborhoods.
16 others have already filed notices of intent to run in the November 19th special election, including former Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher. Our media partner 10 News reports former city attorney Micah Geary is expected to announce his candidacy on Monday. The candidates to replace former Mayor Bob Filner are lining up to make their appeals to neighborhoods, but what about the immediate future? Speak City Heights reporter Megan Burks talked with Councilwoman Marty Emerald about what her constituents can expect without an elected mayor in office. She joins us from the newsroom. Megan, what did Emerald have to say today?
Well, first thing, she's not running for mayor. She echoed what Council President and Interim Mayor Todd Gloria said earlier this week. She likes her job and she isn't willing to put her constituents' needs on hold. She says Gloria's move was one all of her colleagues should follow.
What he's doing is a huge job, and you don't need distractions when you're trying to do the kind of work that he's doing. And he's not just fixing things from Filner. When Walt Eckhart came in, he told us that there's years worth of problems here that really need to get worked on, that need to be addressed. And we can go a long way in these next several months in addressing some of those organizational issues, make the city more efficient, help departments communicate better. So I think Todd's doing the right thing, and I hope that others will watch and learn from that lesson, that we all have our jobs to do. We need to get focused, refocused here, and get them done.
And what kind of work is there to do?
Well, for Emerald, it's seeing through projects and momentum Filner helped jumpstart in City Heights. His budget set aside some $3 million for parks and other projects directly benefiting the neighborhood. Emerald says residents can expect to see that kind of investment continue.
It's my intention to keep those resources flowing, and talking with Todd. Of course, he represented City Heights before me, and he loves the community. He has assured us that he's going to be very supportive in the work that we're doing.
And that work includes building a new skate park. Emerald says the city has already identified land and funding for the project. But another Filner-era initiative is on shakier ground. Emerald and Gloria's offices say the feasibility study on taxi reform has not moved forward.
Of course, we'll keep an eye on that project. Speak City Heights reporter Megan Burks. The U.S. Justice Department says it will not sue two states that recently legalized recreational marijuana use. Peggy Pico finds out what the directive could mean in San Diego.
Attorney General Eric Holder recently announced a new drug prosecution policy that may have far-reaching effects on the war on drugs. Here with a legal perspective on the change is Alex Crate, law professor at Thomas Jefferson School of Law and former chair of the San Diego Medical Marijuana Task Force. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Alex, this new DOJ directive for enforcing federal drug laws in states that have legalized marijuana, what does it say?
Well, it says a few things. First and foremost, it says that the Department of Justice is not going to sue Washington and Colorado states to try and block implementation of the marijuana legalization laws there. And it says that pretty clearly. It leaves the door open that they might change that, have a different view in the future at some point, but for now they're not going to sue those states. It also says to prosecutors, as far as going after individuals who might open up a business for a marijuana dispensary or medical marijuana dispensary, that they shouldn't use resources to do that, even if we're talking about a large-scale business.
What does this new policy mean to prosecutions of California's medical marijuana dispensaries?
Well, I think that remains to be seen because this policy does tell local prosecutors that they shouldn't be using resources to go after folks, even if those folks are operating large-scale enterprises. At the same time, in 2009, people might remember, the Department of Justice issued a similar memo saying that prosecutors shouldn't be going after people in compliance with state medical marijuana laws.
But that remind us, that didn't really happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, after a year or two, things were back to business as usual. And in fact, some people say that the Obama administration actually has been more vigilant in going after people who are operating medical marijuana dispensaries and kind of done more to interfere with state medical marijuana laws than the Bush administration ever did.
Is this a memo, going back to that 2009 memo that said very similar things, is this sort of a we're going to wait and see, or do you think people are really responding to this right at the moment, like, okay, finally?
I think it's a wait-and-see type of situation. I mean, this new memo does say a few things that the 2009 memo didn't. Again, it does clarify, unlike the earlier memo, that even if we're talking about a larger business, as long as it's in compliance with state laws and is regulated, very clearly by the state or locality, then federal prosecutors should generally not use resources to go after these folks. At the same time, the memo does say at the end, this is ultimately up to local prosecutorial discretion. So, will anything really change here? I do think it's a wait-and-see situation.
Well, here in San Diego, in response to the Holder memo, U.S. Attorney Laura Duffy released a statement which read in part, when enforcement is inadequate either due to an inefficient regulatory scheme or law enforcement efforts, and as a result of federal interest are raised to this office will act to bring individual prosecutions focused on federal enforcement priorities. So basically, it sounds like what she's saying is the need for states to have strong regulations so that the federal government doesn't have to step in. How do you think that compares to her rationale for the 2010 crackdown here in California, here in San Diego, of the dispensaries here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is similar, although I do believe that this focus on the need for local regulations may provide some space for a conversation with Laura Duffy and city officials. My hope is that maybe in light of this new memo, her office will say, let's sit down, let's have a conversation about what sort of regulations that we would like to see in place and see if we can't get on the same page with the City Council about establishing regulations that would be satisfactory for her office.
Have there been other changes to state laws, increased regulations, anything like that since that first memo or back in the day?
Unfortunately not. And really this summer there was an effort to get some more clarification at the state level on regulations. And unfortunately, state law enforcement lobbyists in Sacramento opposed it, and it ended up kind of falling by the wayside. But that was before this more recent memo. And again, I do think that this new memo, if anything, should give an impetus to state legislators, to local legislators, to get some clear, tight, strict regulations in place where they aren't already. And certainly San Diego, we don't have strict regulations in place, and the state doesn't either.
Right, and you touched on this. Before Mayor Filner resigned, getting a legal status for San Diego's medical marijuana clinics, it was one of his big issues. Where do plans for that new ordinance stand right now?
Well, I think like most things, the political landscape here locally is kind of anybody's guess, right, what's going to happen, especially with this mayoral race. I do think, though, that the folks on City Council are all in agreement, or at least the good majority of them are, that we should allow medical marijuana dispensaries with tight regulations. The key is to just get on the same page and get something in place. And even though Mayor Filner isn't there to back it anymore, this new memo might provide the political impetus for doing it.
All right, Law Professor Alex Crate, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
San Diego's Miramar College has finally gotten a new state-of-the-art student services building after nearly 45 years of being housed in bungalows from World War II.
The campus is only a short distance from the Marine Corps Air Base at Miramar.
with a student population of about 12,000 and growing. With all the cutbacks to higher education, the new facility was built using construction bond money San Diego voters approved several years ago, moving from old World War II bungalows to a gleaming, energy-efficient three-story building.
If you come and take a look here at this campus, you'll see that your money was very well spent, and as a taxpayer myself, I think it was worth it.
Aisha Burke is studying to become a fitness instructor and says having everything under one roof is more convenient.
Previously, they were just so scattered, and it was hard to find.
But not anymore. The new facility includes student admissions and counseling, Veterans Affairs, and a spacious bookstore and cafeteria, putting smiles on the faces of everyone walking through the new center, and giving students like Sarah Haddad a new sense of pride and dedication.
As a student, I feel like really proud to be here and be able to see it in action, the buildings coming up, and being able to have a place to learn and study. Miramar is one of 3 community colleges in San Diego expanding thanks to $1 billion in construction bond funds voters approved during a time when money was hard to come by. The new student center took about a year to build and cost nearly $40 million. Qualcomm unveiled its soon-to-be-released smartwatch at a technology conference in San Diego today. The wireless company is one of several hoping to launch the next big gadget thing. KPBS Business and Environment reporter Eric Anderson joins us with more. Eric, tell us more about this new smartwatch. Sounds like something out of a Dick Tracy comic book.
Well, Dwayne, the Qualcomm Talk, it's spelled T-O-Q, is essentially a smaller version of a smartphone. It works in conjunction with a smartphone. In fact, it's not quite like that Dick Tracy comic book thing because it doesn't do the video conferencing, but that may come down the road. It's the San Diego company's entry into the wearable technology field. It's the size of a large wristwatch, and it features technology that Qualcomm has been trying to get traction for in other devices. The small color screen uses Qualcomm's proprietary Mirasol display technology. Ambient light powers the screen. That reduces the battery drain that's created by traditional backlit displays. A wireless connection links the device to a smartphone. It uses Bluetooth headphones, so there are no wires there, and both the watch and the headphones recharge on a wireless pad. Qualcomm's Paul Jacobs said today that a charge is going to last for days, even with the color screen essentially on all the time.
Well, it certainly has the cool factor. Why here and why now?
Well, good questions, both. Why here? The company likely picked the Mobile Technology Developers Conference to get people thinking about developing apps for the device. Tech observers say what it can do will determine a lot about whether people choose this device. And why now? That might be linked to the rest of the competitive market. Samsung today unveiling its smartwatch at a technology conference in Berlin. Sony and Apple are also said to be developing smartwatches, and so are several smaller companies. A lot of people are developing these products, trying to get an early share of the market that could be the key to some long-term success.
KPBS Business and Technology reporter Eric Anderson. People with cancer face a lot of uncertainty. That's especially true for patients of reproductive age who'd like to have kids. Because of certain kinds of cancer, treatment can endanger fertility. But as KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg explains, there are steps patients can take to preserve their chances of being a parent.
At Moore's UC San Diego Cancer Center, oncologist Grace Koo specializes in treating blood cancers like leukemia and lymphoma. When she tells patients the particulars of their disease and how to treat it, they're often in shock.
And oftentimes patients, when faced with the initial diagnosis and having to go through this life-changing, decision of chemotherapy and learning about their cancer, fertility isn't always on the top of their minds.
But for patients under the age of 44, fertility is definitely something that needs to be considered. Certain cancer treatments can damage a patient's fertility or even cause sterility.
So anytime a patient is undergoing chemotherapy, I do want to discuss with them the potential impact on their fertility. Certainly, there are some regimens that have more of an impact than others, would be one thing. So the intensity of the chemotherapy, the type of agents used in that chemotherapy.
Doctors estimate this year about 1.7 million Americans will be newly diagnosed with cancer. The vast majority of them will be over 55. Even so, during a recent 4-year period, the National Cancer Institute says nearly 9% of cancer patients were under the age of 44. Christina Montana, who lives in Lemon Grove, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was 14. That's a cancer that affects the lymphatic system. Shortly after she got her diagnosis, Montana was told the radiation and chemotherapy she'd receive could damage her fertility. So Montana consulted with a fertility specialist.
My doctor actually recommended it because they told me everything that could possibly happen. They said it was possible that I couldn't have kids on my own after it. It was just a possibility, but I still thought I should do it.
Montana says her first visit with the fertility doctor was strange.
When I first met with her, it was a little awkward for me because I never thought I'd have to do that. And first they did kind of like, I think it was like an ultrasound of my ovaries, and they felt like this gel on me. It was weird. And like, she showed me everything, explained everything. She showed me everything on the monitor, what she's looking at and what she's looking for. She made everything super clear.
Montana got a series of injections to stimulate her ovaries. Then some of her eggs were extracted and frozen.
So this is a tank of liquid nitrogen. We have canisters which contain patient specimens stored in vials, frozen, -196 degrees centigrade.
Dr. Catherine Adams offers a tour of her lab at the Reproductive Sciences Center in La Jolla. It's one of the region's many fertility clinics. In this room, eggs, sperm, and even embryos are preserved in a frozen state for future use. Women's eggs are extracted in this part of the lab and placed in a special incubator.
It's a mobile chamber which keeps the eggs warm. We have gas, CO2 gas flowing in, so we can keep a very stable environment for collecting the eggs.
Clinic director Dr. Samuel Wood says fertility preservation for people with cancer is a relatively new field.
It's only really come into its own since 2006. And I think we're all still trying to figure out exactly how all the pieces fit in. But it's definitely multidisciplinary. Many different types of physicians have to be involved. They need to get involved early. And when they've done so, we've seen outstanding results.
Dr. Wood says the success rate for women who go through fertility treatment depends on their age at the time their eggs are removed. He says success rates of 60 to 80% are possible.
And so there is an outstanding chance that especially women under the age of 35, if they go through either embryo freezing or egg freezing, there is a very good chance that they will end up actually having a healthy live birth.
Dr. Wood says despite these results, only about 5% of female cancer patients take advantage of fertility treatment. Part of the reason may be the price tag. Harvesting eggs can cost up to $15,000, and most insurance companies won't cover it. But there's another factor. Studies show only about half of all oncologists tell patients that cancer treatment could affect their ability to have kids. Christina Montana thinks that's a shame.
Like, even thinking about it, I just feel terrible for the people who didn't know. I'm just like, I wish they had the option.
Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
People who are deported from the U.S. and end up stranded in Tijuana lost a great friend this week. Micaela Saucedo was one of the most vocal advocates for thousands of Tijuana deportees who live in dire poverty. Adrian Florido from our Fronteras desk joins us with more. Adrian, tell us more about Saucedo and how she got involved working with deportees.
Well, Saucedo was a retired nurse, but a lifelong activist for immigrants in the border region. But it wasn't until 7 years ago, that is, that she really began working with deportees. People may remember the case of Elvira Arellano, an immigrant who got a lot of attention in 2006 after taking refuge in a Chicago church to avoid being deported. Well, she was eventually deported to Tijuana, and the woman who greeted her at the border was Micaela Saucedo. That meeting inspired Saucedo and friends to establish a shelter for women who were deported to Tijuana but have no place to go, and Saucedo became its director.
But she also quickly expanded her work, right, beyond the shelter?
Right. What Saucedo is really known for is her work in the Tijuana River Canal. That's where thousands of people who have been deported from the U.S. live in utter poverty because they have no place to go or because they're trying to rejoin their families in the U.S. and trying to figure out how to cross the border. Saucedo spent lots of time in the canal giving food, offering them beds in her shelter, which she also expanded to house men as well as women. And she also spent a lot of time lobbying against police harassment of the people who live in that canal.
Wow, she did quite a bit. How did she die?
Well, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer 2 years ago, and in recent weeks she took a turn for the worse. She died at her son's home in Chula Vista under hospice care early Sunday morning, and she was 67.
Frontiers reporter Adrian Florido. The county is more than halfway through the fire season, but we're not out of the woods. Santa Ana winds are expected in the next few weeks. Peggy Pico tells us about a timely initiative to get 1 million residents prepared.
So far this year, there's been more than 3,600 wildfires in California. One of the biggest, Yosemite's Rim Fire, still burning. It's charred more than 237,000 acres. Here with more on a new effort to get 1 million San Diegans prepared for disasters, including wildfires, are Red Cross CEO Tony Young and County Supervisor Dave Roberts. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Supervisor Roberts, you just returned from that Rim Fire where you met with other county supervisors and firefighters. What did you learn from your visit?
Well, I wanted to go up, I wanted to listen, I wanted to learn, I wanted to serve. I saw a lot of great collaboration going on there. I saw how much preparedness was responsible for really carrying out the effort. Federal, state, county, city people up there from around the state, including San Diego. But being prepared was the critical thing I saw as this fire continued to grow up there.
Was it surprising to actually see the fire burn? Because I know you evacuated here in San Diego, so you weren't actually in the last fire here. What was it like seeing the magnitude of this fire?
Well, it's just unbelievable, the magnitude of it. It's the 4th largest fire right now, and to see the evacuees, to understand the process that they all went through, it was just really different. And what I wanted to do was see what lessons learned that we could bring back here to San Diego.
And let's talk about that, Tony. The fire, of course, is not the only threat San Diegans face. There's earthquakes, and I just read a possible tsunami report that came out. How prepared are most businesses today and families for disasters?
Well, the Red Cross just did a evaluation on where we are, a survey of where we are when it comes to preparedness, and we're looking at around 7% of the people who are actually prepared for that next disaster. And that's one of the reasons why we're partnering with the Board of Supervisors, specifically Supervisor Roberts, to be able to really get to as many people as we can, to get them to take an action to be more prepared.
And this initiative called the Prepare San Diego Initiative kicked off yesterday. Can you explain for us in a nutshell what it is?
Well, Prepare San Diego is a collaborative effort between a number of organizations, including the Board of Supervisors, businesses, and all those other entities that we had at the press conference, that will encourage 1 million people to take 1 million acts to be prepared. And that would include get a kit, make a plan, or get trained. Those are 3 things that any of us can do, but there are a lot of regional goals that we have, including feeding goals and sheltering goals in case we have a major disaster here.
How is this different than other preparedness plans or outreach?
Well, I've been at the Red Cross for about 7 months now, and I've gone all over the country or working with other individuals who kind of do what I do. And the difference is that this is not just a program from the Red Cross. This is an initiative that many entities have come together to actually try to address. So it's a collaborative effort, and it's a sustained effort for 4 years.
4 years, and it seems pretty big and pretty broad. And Supervisor Roberts, what role will local government have in this initiative?
Well, I think our role as one of the collaborators, the American Red Cross is really the catalyst to get this going, but fire preparedness is critical to this county. We've seen it over and over, and we know more fires, unfortunately, will come. So we need to be prepared, and we need to work with others. We're talking about reaching out to many groups, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, fire safety councils. There's dozens in this county, but I have 2 in my district, Rancho Bernardo and Forest Ranch. But we need to make sure that people don't forget the lessons that we have learned and continually stay vigilant, that you have to be prepared for things such as fires or other emergencies, because we're not going to be able to get emergency responders to everybody to help out. So people need to be prepared themselves.
How is this being funded?
We are involved through the county. The county has a 5-year actual master plan. We're partnering. The American Red Cross is reaching out for corporate sponsors such as San Diego Gas and Electric and others. When we launched yesterday, there were a number of business leaders in that room. I was really pleased to see the collaboration that the American Red Cross and the county and the cities, the interim mayor was there yesterday, but we're going to be working collaboratively on this to find the funding sources that we need to make this a reality.
And I was to say some of the resources are already there. I mean, folks are already doing work, and we just have to make sure that we look at the resources that we have already and try to focus those resources on things that are really important to us, including preparedness. However, the business community and even individual donors have given money to support some of this effort.
Right now, as we're approaching Santa Ana season, and we still got another month or two of fire season here, what can businesses and families do right now?
Well, I would say make a plan. You can make a plan for your business. You can support your employees that way. It'll be great for our economy to make sure that we're resilient, but also as a family or individual, get prepared.
All right, I want to let folks know there's a lot more on our website, and we have links to Prepare San Diego. So Tony Young and Supervisor Dave Roberts, thanks so much.
Thank you.
A few more hot, sticky days ahead, but then a cool down in store. Coastal temperatures will remain in the 80s, but we'll start to see that drop by the weekend. Mid-90s for the inland valleys. As for the mountains, there's a flash flood watch up until 10 tonight, and thunderstorms still in the forecast through Saturday. The desert also under a flash flood watch until 10 tonight, and temperatures will stay above 100 through the weekend. Tonight's stories are online at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Good night.